Julia loved visiting antique markets on quiet weekends. She always felt they hid treasures waiting to be found. That day, she noticed a small wooden box tucked behind a stack of old books. The box looked worn but intriguing, as if it held secrets from another time. Inside, she found a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon. The paper was yellowed, and the handwriting was elegant yet unfamiliar. Each letter was written in English. Julia could only pick out a few words, like love and dream. The rest was a mystery to her. The vendor watched her with a knowing smile. A treasure for the curious, he said as she bought the box and took it home. Sitting at her kitchen table, Julia carefully untied the ribbon. The letters felt delicate, but their story seemed alive. As she opened the first letter, she quickly realized her English wasn't strong enough to understand much. She felt frustrated but also excited. Julia knew these letters held a story worth uncovering. It was time to learn the language that would bring it to life. At home, Julia spread the letters across the table. Each one seemed to carry emotions she couldn't yet fully grasp. She picked up a letter and tried to read it aloud. The unfamiliar words stumbled off her tongue, leaving her feeling defeated. Julia put the letter down and stared at it for a moment. A thought began to form in her mind, simple but powerful. She decided she had to learn English. It wasn't just about the letters anymore. It was about discovering something bigger. Julia remembered how she'd always wanted to understand English. This felt like the perfect reason to finally try. With determination, she picked up the letter again. She promised herself she would uncover the story hidden inside. Julia opened the first letter with trembling hands. The paper was soft, worn by time, and the ink had slightly faded. She scanned the sentences, picking out a few familiar words. Her eyes stopped at the phrase, "I miss you." It felt like a confession, simple but heartfelt. Julia repeated the words aloud, letting their meaning settle into her mind. She reached for a dictionary and began translating one word at a time. Slowly, the pieces of the letter started to make sense. "I hope to see you soon," another sentence read. The phrase filled her with curiosity about who had written it. Julia wrote down the words she had learned in a small notebook. Each new discovery gave her a sense of achievement. The letter mentioned someone named Elizabeth. It spoke of longing, dreams, and promises made under difficult circumstances. Julia felt a deep connection to the story. Even though she only understood fragments, it made her want to learn more. Julia opened another letter and began to read. This one seemed longer and more complicated than the first. The sentences were filled with words she didn't recognize. It made her feel small and unsure of her progress. She tried translating a few sentences but got stuck. The letters seemed to demand more from her than she had expected. Frustrated, Julia put the letter aside. She wondered if she was capable of learning enough to uncover the full story. But then she remembered the emotional weight of the words she had already understood. That thought gave her strength to continue. Julia searched for ways to improve her English. She found online videos and practiced simple phrases while listening to their pronunciation. Slowly, she felt her confidence growing. Each new word brought her one step closer to understanding the letters completely. As Julia's skills improved, she began piecing together the story. The letters were filled with devotion and longing. The author, a man, wrote about missing Elizabeth deeply. He described dreams of seeing her again and holding her close. He mentioned struggles they faced, hinting at a war that had separated them. The details were vague, but the emotions were clear. The letters revealed a love that seemed timeless. Julia could feel the weight of their connection with every translated phrase. One letter ended with the words, "Forever yours." Julia repeated the phrase softly, imagining the writer's heartfelt emotions. Learning these words didn't just improve her English, it made her feel closer to the people behind the letters. Julia felt their pain and their hope as if she were living their story herself. It made her eager to uncover more. Julia made a routine of studying English daily. She used apps, watched English movies, and practiced phrases from the letters. Her progress was slow but steady. Words that once felt foreign now began to feel familiar and comfortable. Julia realized that learning English wasn't just about understanding the letters. It was opening doors to a new world. Each day she celebrated small victories. The story in the letters felt clearer, and her confidence grew with each step forward. She knew there was still so much to learn, but her determination remained strong. The letters had given her a purpose. One night, Julia opened the final letter in the box. It was the shortest one, with only a few lines of text. The man wrote that he had stopped receiving answers from Elizabeth. His words carried sadness, but also a trace of hope. "I don't know if you'll ever read this," he wrote, "but I hope these letters find someone who understands." Julia sat in silence, feeling the weight of his words. She realized she had become the person he had imagined. Through these letters, she had uncovered more than just a story. She had found a connection that transcended time. The man's hope had reached her, even decades later. It was a powerful reminder of the human desire to be understood. Julia looked at the letters spread across her table. They were no longer just papers with foreign words. They were symbols of her journey, both in learning a new language and connecting with the past. She felt proud of how far she had come. Learning English had been challenging, but it had also been deeply rewarding. Julia decided she wasn't done yet. She wanted to keep studying and sharing the story of these letters with others. For the first time, she felt confident in her abilities. She knew that her determination had made all the difference. The letters had taught her not only new words, but also the importance of resilience. Julia smiled, ready to write her own story.